We got Rob Basso, Jonas Max Ferris, and Tracy Burns. Tracy, why don't protesters understand how much what they do is literally having a negative, in some cases perhaps even deadly, consequence?
Because, well, one, I think they want to bring down capitalism for all the wrong reasons, of course, but I mean, that's why they did the lions in the Apple stores, and that's why they did it in the mall this weekend. They want to hurt capitalism. What they don't realize, though, is they're hurting themselves. If the economy goes down, they get screwed at the end of the day, David, and look, it will. You know, there was a shooting near the mall near me at home last Christmas. I didn't go.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who
We're
didn't
going to be
go.
talking more about the malls coming up, but the bottom line is New York's economy, Jonas, was in the tank when crime was very high. It didn't come back until crime went down. Don't you think there's a connection between crime and the quality of life, particularly the economy in a place like New York?
There's a connection, but look, Dave, I lived in New York in the 70s, and it was a dump. I mean, they spray painted all the subways.
I remember.
It was squeegee guys everywhere, prostitutes walking the street. But if you think keeping the squeegee, and I'm for all this broken stuff and keeping the streets clean, but if you think taking prostitutes off the street and squeegee guys has anything to do with crazy people shooting people, I don't see the correlation.
Okay, here's the correlation. It's very simple, Jonas. The correlation is a lot of times the people who commit the small crimes also commit the big crimes. And if you stop them from committing the small crimes, if you get them in jail for that, they're not out there to commit the big crimes. That's what we found time and again.
I'm not against the police work. It definitely helps. I'm just saying if I could choose between 10% more caps or a 10% higher per capita GDP as far as which will lower crime more, I will take the stronger economy with more jobs. I think if you look at countries where they have much tougher police work, Russia, where they throw people in gulags a lot, Iran, where they cut people.
Hold on a second. Russia, they don't have the rule of. Hold on. Wait. Russia, you can't compare, right? Russia doesn't have the rule of law that we have here.
Let's just hope we're not channeling our inner 1970s where race relations were at an all-time high in New York City. I think if the leaders of this, not only the city, but of the nation, don't get that under control, we could see us be back in those days. I mean, think about it. We're not fighting for the right things. There's a huge issue with poverty. There's a huge issue with income inequality. There's a huge issue with housing inequality. Those are the things we need to worry about. We need about education.
But there's so much anger, and this city has never seen as large a racial divide as it has under this mayor in a long time. I'm sure Jonas can attest to that.
He hasn't been mayor that long, by the way.
And he's made a mess, I have to tell you. I mean, it's black versus white everywhere you go, and that's the kind of stuff that will keep tourism out, that'll keep people in their home. Nobody wants to deal with taking a risk.
Jonas, I tell you, I was in a subway the other night. I had on a police cap that I've had since 2001. It said New York City Police Department on it, and I got nasty stares like I hadn't received in years because people thought there's something wrong with defending the police. Police were our heroes after 9/11, our absolute heroes, and things have changed.
I'm not for all the anti-cop mentality. I'm just saying that there are other factors that economists point to that relate to crack was big in the 80s. Crack was it's not a big thing anymore. A lot of shootings, a lot of crime. So there's other factors.
Because a lot of the small-time crack dealers, again, broken windows here. A lot of small-time crack dealers were thrown in jail, and that did a lot to get rid of the problem.
Of it, but then the drug's just not big anmore. Gangs. It's just not that whole crime thing is gone. I do think the economy plays a big role. You know, there's economists that are famous who say the fact that abortion's legal is
number one thing for a business is safety. If they don't feel safe, they won't start a business. We got to leave it at that. The U.S. may retaliate against North Korea's Sony hack after all. The Mall of America turning into a mall of mayhem with anti-police brutality, protesters turning their rallies against retailers to the Fox Biz All-Stars. So, Rob, why are innocent businesses seemingly always the target here?
Well, this is nothing new. You look at Walmart, they've been picketed for the last decade, and it hasn't made a dent in their sales whatsoever. People go to where the money is. So finding themselves in the middle of the largest mall in America, they wanted to make a statement. They were trying to be divisive. They were trying to get the media to do exactly what we're doing right now, talking about it. I'm not shocked at all.
I know this may be overdone, Jonas, but it always gets me when I see these protesters protest capitalism, then pick up their iPhone and make a phone call or text to one of their friends. I mean, how can you attack capitalism if you're part of it?
Well, if it was a protest about like the minimum wage, I could understand what they're doing. But it doesn't make any sense. This is a protest about government and how the government is treating people, jails, and that should be in parks, on streets, at the police precincts. But there's no people there. There's people at the mall this time of year, so That's why they do it. It makes sense from a people point of view, but I think they're losing the focus of what the protest is about. It's not about
Well,
Macy's.
that's a good point. And Tracy, I think the focus is against capitalism, is it not? I mean, obviously they pick an issue, depending on what that issue is in the pages that they in the front pages. But I think ultimately their issue is anti-capitalism.
It most certainly is, and yet it's because of capitalism that this has gone viral. And it is because of them tweeting it out and instant messaging that they, putting it on Instagram, that this is going across the country right now. So capitalism is the reason they have a movement. By hurting capitalism, though, they hurt themselves at the end of the day. No one really cares anymore.
And Rob,
they're just an inconvenience.
Even Al Sharpton, while he says that minority interests are his #1 concern, you hear a lot of anti-capitalist rhetoric coming out of what he says. I mean, that's even for him, that's one of the key objectives.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Sharpton is making this situation worse. He has been for decades. I'm not certain, how any American could think that his politics really help African Americans.
Although, I got to say, Jonas, there's a place here in New York called the Grand Havana Room. It's a cigar club where millionaires, billionaires sometimes go to smoke cigars. I went there once. I was invited by one of these high rollers. Guess who was sitting there? Al Sharpton. And according to one of these guys who's a regular there, he's there practically every night. And he's not even a member, by the way. He sort of dares them to throw him out. I mean, this is a guy who eats all the fruits of capitalism, but is the first one to condemn it.
I think he owes more taxes than I paid in taxes. Look, I'm not going to knock him for anybody for making a lot of money, although the way he does is a little bit of a shakedown in some ways.
A little bit.
Look, I think the protesters want to get attention. I wonder if this is going to get tied back to capitalism. It's been a whole year or more now where there's this sensation that people are getting lost. And they started with that book with the Economist from the French guy, and I think it's going in that direction. I get worried that even though they're not really right, capitalism helps them. It doesn't matter if they're right. Were the French Revolution people right? I don't know, but they killed the people in charge, and then it became
off with their heads quickly.
The message is getting lost. Their message is completely lost right now.
Well, particularly on the people who go to the malls who say, "The heck with you."
It's a complete inconvenience right now.
Right. Thank you very much, gang. Well, you think Sony caved to North Korea? Wait until you hear how Mark Zuckerberg just caved to Russia. And in tonight's Biz Blitz, is retail getting blitzed? Christmas shoppers are seeing big markdowns ahead of the holiday. So could this last rush of sales be proof retailers are not doing that well? Tracy, what do you think?
Well, Black Friday was kind of a bust after Thanksgiving.
Seems to have been.
And I think we all knew.
Except for online retailers.
Except for online, but even still, it didn't blow it out of the water, right? And I think we all knew that if you wait it out, you're going to get yourself some great deals. I mean, sure enough, this weekend, I shopped online, and I only took the deals that gave me free 2-day express shipping. So, I was bargain shopping all over the place.
Jonas, it used to be that 40% of all retail sales took place in this 1 month period. Is it possible that because of what's happened with the internet and everything, that is expanding now, and we can't hope for that big volume, that big concentrated volume in this one period? It's going to be more spread out.
I think it's part of that, but I think the internet sales were the higher end sales, and I think what's really going on is there's a whole part of this country that's just not spending anymore year over year.
Right.
If anything, it's maybe growing with inflation, but you'll top end retail, they can't keep Porsches in stock. Bentleys are sold out. Like that part of the market is red hot, but the average consumer is not spending a lot more than last year, I think, when the final numbers are in.
Well, you look at the overall sales since the beginning of November, they're up 1.8 compared to last year. That's because what Tracy said, Black Friday wasn't that big of a deal, but the overall sales were almost 2% better than 2013. So I think all these discounts are really just a way to get shoppers in. You just got to make sure that it's not cutting them into the red.
Jonas, we still see these retail stocks going up like crazy, though.
It's not a bad economy here compared to the rest of the world. It's just not. I don't think when the numbers are in, I think the profit margins aren't going to go up as high as the sales.
Right. That's the thing. We're going to see it in earnings reports.
But are the stocks totally disassociated from the actual numbers?
I think we're going to see that next quarter when they come out. Look, David, there's no hot product that anybody wants. So everyone is spreading to Jonas.
Your kids, there's no hot product that your kids are screaming for?
So everyone has this small pool of money. And we're just spreading it out as best we can. So everyone is just making the most out of their pool.
I think all that money is going to iPhone 6s.
iPhone 6?
The line does not go away.
Well, let's hope your kids aren't demanding iPhone 6s, are they?
No, they don't demand.
Good.
They ask politely.
Good for you. Good Italian mother. On to issue number 2. We have come a long way from yo-yos and hula hoops This year, drones are topping a lot of Christmas lists. So, Jonas, you say it's a big mistake for parents to buy into this, right?
I've been droning to my wife at the holidays for years. I don't even look, I think this is
Just drone on to your wife, yes.
Absolute horrible trend. They need to clamp down this before everyone thinks they have some right to have their own personal helicopter.
Why?
Because besides the noise pollution, which is ridiculous, if every neighbor in your there's a danger element
That's pretty
here.
good imitation. I like that
imitation.
imitation.
Have fireworks in a lot of states. That mostly is to hurt yourself. This you can hurt other people.
But
they can crash into windshields of cars.
Modern day version of the Leave It to Beaver remote control airplane? I mean, it's the kind of the same thing.
It is, but only 16 companies have the right to actually use it in commercial practice. The FAA is limiting it. You can go and apply, but they're not.
But Jonas, you're missing a bet. I think you get the fireworks. You get one of these Roman candles to try to shoot down these things, and you got a terrific game.
They are going to have to start selling anti-aircraft things for people to shoot these things down.
I mean, but David, they could cost as much as $800. So this is not a cheap gift for Junior.
Would you buy one for your kid?
A drone?
Yeah.
Heck no.
Why not? Because it's just too dangerous?
They don't use that kind of stuff.
I'm surprised. I think a lot of kids would love to have one.
Jonas, I think think of the future 10 years in the making and them buzzing around your neighborhood. I just think it's absurd.
Technology. They'll be like $50 in the future. Everybody will have one.
You're making it seem like a Hollywood movie where you're not going to see the sky. It's going to be all black with drones.
Yeah, but there are practical applications for agriculture, for building, for land surveying. There are practical applications.
Sure. How many of these things are sold for the practical applications as opposed to people who just want to have fun?
Right.
One almost hit me in the head when I was jogging on the beach once. It's not like that is just a nuisance. It's a menace to society to have everybody.
But would you rather regulate them out of existence, Jonas?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things the consumer doesn't need to have. But have robots in your house. That's where the technology should be, not in the air.
It's the same. It's like back to the 1960s when you were on the beach and everyone was playing with their remote control airplanes. You got hit in the head with those two.
So you don't mind?
No, drone away.
You don't mind, Rob?
I don't mind. I think it's progress.
Jonas, you're in the minority here.
Clamp down on it. They're for law enforcement and the FBI and the CIA and everyone else to spy on us.
Wouldn't you love? I bet you actually have one, don't you?
I do not have a drone,
Okay.
but I'm going to need one to fight the other neighbors with their drones.
By the way, is it true?
That's the problem. You get escalation. It's like us with the Soviets.
They might create a drone.
My neighbor's got the X50. I got to step it up and keep them out of my property line.
Jonas, anybody who watches Imus knows that your wife loves NASCAR. Is it true you hate NASCAR?
I'm not a fan.
Wow.
And there goes the holiday.
All right, is the economy about to heat up because of Frozen?